Cash is still king. Revenue is what everyone talks about. That's what people like to glorify about. I'm such and such size company. I crossed over this size. This is how big we are. Profits are what really matter. But at the end of the day, cash is still the king. Why cash is the king is it's critical to every business. It's the most important part. I'm going to explain why and talk in this video today. My name is Scott Pieper. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mobilization Funding. And in the last 10 and a half years, we've helped businesses distinguish between revenue, profit, and cash and why they're critical. All right, let's start off in understanding the importance of cash flow and profit. And what are the differences? Well, first, cash flow is the amount of money that you have in and out of your business at any given time. It's the sources of cash that are coming in from your customers, from debt sources, from lines of credit, from equity, cash infusions by the owners, all different types. Sources of that cash are clearly defined in your inflows, and each source has a different method or purpose for what your business is going to be able to use that cash for. The outflows of cash are for vendor payments, payroll, expenses of all kinds, maybe capital expenditures. But profits, on the other hand, are a source of cash coming into your business. Cash flow and profit are not one and the same. Now, profit is critical to your business, but when you actually get to realize your profit is a different thing than when you actually earn your profit. It's different than what's on your bid or estimate sheet, and it's certainly different than what comes in and out of your account on a weekly or monthly basis. I'm going to discuss these differences with you now. Here's what's key to understand. When they say cash is king, they don't necessarily mean paying cash for everything. What they mean is how much cash you have. And really, quite frankly, I like to look at it like this. Does the pile of cash or amount of cash you have access to utilize for your operational expenses or expenses of your business when you need them, is it enough? Is it plentiful? Is it give you the opportunities to execute on your business plan and your forecast? What's critical to understand is the profit that you have, earning your profit, and when you actually get to realize your profit are two totally different things. They should marry up to one another in a perfect world, but the truth is they don't. You may provide services, you may provide a product, and at that point in time, when you invoice your customer, you earned that profit. But the reality is, until it's sitting in your account, you don't actually have possession of it. And what you need to understand about cash flow is possessing your profit to be able to use for cash flow is what's critical. That's when you can actually have that profit. Just because you realize the profit and you've earned it, and then you actually collect it, also doesn't mean you get to take it out of the business if you want to continue to have the right amount of operational cash flow to execute on your plan. That's the critical difference to understand between profit and cash flow. They're both one and the same in terms of their money, but the amount of cash you need to run your business can be significantly different than the amount of profit you're earning. And depending on what phase of business you're in, you know exactly what I'm talking about. A startup business needs a lot of cash, but it's certainly not in the form of profit. A more mature business might have a lot of cash, and it might be all in the form of profit, meaning it's not equity, it's not debt, it's not anything. You've actually paid all your debts off, and you've accumulated and saved enough of your profits over a period of time that you're actually operating your business and anything you need to do with the profits that you've made before and the profits you're currently making. Margin in your business, the amount of cost you have, overall expenses, all these things are factors. But at the end of the day, the difference in profit and cash is cash flow is needed for operations is a different number than the profit you earn. And also earning your profit and realizing your profit when it's actually paid to you are also totally different. Let's jump into cash flow first. Cash flow is simply a measure of the inflows and outflows of the cash coming in and out of your business. On the inflow side, these are what commonly referred to as the sources of cash. They can be things most commonly like your customers paying you. They can be lines of credit that you have access to that you can pull from. They can also be profits that you have realized that you are now investing back into the business instead of taking out of the business. They also could be equity that you're infusing as the business owner. That's inflows. Outflows are what you need to spend the money on. So let's think of the most common thing. You have your fixed expenses, which can be labor, You have your fixed expenses like rent, overhead, utilities, etc. You have capital expenditures. These are things like one-time expenses, buying equipment. Maybe it's leasing a certain piece of equipment that you need for a special project. Anything that you have to spend cash on are your outflows of cash. Now that we've discussed the inflows and outflows, I think, and I hope as an owner or listening to this business, or anyone in a leadership position, you can understand how critical the outflows and inflows of cash are. When you have enough cash in your account, it's very easy to pay for things, very easy to do things. When you don't, it makes your life on a day-to-day basis a lot more difficult. You have to have more planning. I follow a gentleman named Jordan Peterson. He talks about the importance of being strong versus weak, being dangerous and capable as a strength, but also making sure that you understand that difference of being dangerous and capable is the opposite of weak. Well, what does that mean in business? It means if you have a strong cash flow, you're very disciplined, you have a great plan, you're operating your plan, you know how much money you need, when you need it to execute on not only the projects you have, to pay for the expenses that you have, but also to work where you're trying to get to and the future outcomes of those cash needs. It's very critical that you can implement and be strong, because the opposite of that is weak. And when you're weak, you are forced to make decisions you don't like. You put yourself in situations. You can't manage your customers the best. You can't manage your employees the best. You can't deliver on the promises that you make. It's a very stressful environment in a weak situation, particularly in business. And what's important to understand is the cash flow is the beginning and typically the end of what can signify a strong, capable, dangerous, performing company versus a weak company. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person or a good person. It doesn't mean you're good in business or bad in business. You can be very good in business. You can have all the planning ahead. You can know exactly what to do, and you can have all the best intentions on how to execute them. But if you happen to be weak with your cash flow and weak with the thought processes and design and forecasting and budgeting of your cash flow, it can make all of the best attributes of you very difficult to explore and take advantage of. So that's why we're focused on cash flow, and that's why I want you to think about being very strong and capable as opposed to being weak. And the critical nature of that is managing your cash and having a plan and budget for how you're going to use it. Now, profit. Let's talk about that. Profit is the money that you actually earn after you have invoiced your customer, received the money from your customer, paid all of the expenses associated to that. That is your profit. Now, there's some different forms of profit. Let's discuss those. You have gross profit and net profit. Your gross profit is typically the amount of money you charge for your good or service, your product, less the raw expenses that go into that. And that could be the raw materials, that could be the equipment cost, that could be the project-related expenses, the labor that's associated to that specific project or good. That would be considered your gross profit. After you take what you've charged, less those expenses, that would be your gross profit. Your net profit then takes into consideration your overhead expenses, your debt services, any other miscellaneous one-time expenses that aren't associated with the specific project or the specific revenue that you're incurring. And then that would give you what your net profit is. So we've talked about gross profit, net profit, when you realize it. Now, your profits are a form of cash flow into your business. Yes, they are part of what your customers pay you, but ultimately, how you utilize those profits need to be thought about from how do you reinvest those? What are you going to do with the profits of your business? Those are the types of things that you want to accumulate cash, profit, called retained earnings. And then what are you going to do with those retained earnings? You can take them out of the business and pay yourself a distribution. You can reinvest them into the business in the form of buying capital expenditures. Maybe it's equipment, maybe it's cars, vehicles. You can invest that retained earnings back into growing your business in the form of hiring new employees. Maybe there's new positions. Maybe there's enhancements that you want to make to the business. Maybe you need a bigger office. Maybe you're going to buy a building. There's lots of things you can do with the profits of your business. But working through your business plan and knowing how you're going to use those profits when you realize them is a critical component to your business success. In summary, cash flow is the amount of money that's coming in and out of your business, how you're using it on a weekly, monthly basis, and getting from point A to point B in your business. Profits, I like to think about is the amount of cash that you have accumulated after paid, and think about profits being something you're going to invest. Cash flow and the cash you need for operational cash flow is the amount of money you need for your routine, week in, week out expenses, money in, money out. Profits are the amount of cash that you have that you're going to use for investments in people, investments in growth, investments in equipment, materials, etc. Things that you need for your business to grow. That's the way I like to separate the two of those. We've talked now about cash flow. We've talked about profits. We've talked about the different types of profits, gross profit, net profit, how to accumulate profit, how to accumulate cash, what the different sources are, what the different uses can be, building a financial plan, how cash and profit can implement into your plan, how to use them into your plan, how to consider them in your plan. There's actionable tools and information all over our website and our resource page for you to use. One of the key critical things that I want you to take away from this video is the financial infrastructure that you build for your company. I like to use the term infrastructure and specifically financial infrastructure because what that is this entire system all put together. It's what your business plan is. It's what your cash forecasting and budget plan is. It's how you set those things up, meaning what's your general ledger look like? What's your chart of accounts? What reports are you going to use? This financial structure you put in place, this expertise that you go gather, whether it's from your accountant or from your internal experience, however it is that you set this financial structure up that's going to help you execute your operational plan and your business plan and your goals. This financial infrastructure is critical. Once you set this up, it's how the entire basis of your decision making can be made. It's your scorecard, it's your report card, it's your grades, it's how you're going to make decisions, it's how you're going to evaluate week to week, day to day, month to month, and then of course year to year. What's critical is that if you set this infrastructure up right, you can then work that plan in a very systematic and easy manner. And that financial infrastructure is a much stronger thing to build your business on and scale your business on. The absence of that infrastructure is weak. It just means that you're going to have to fly by night. You're going to have to go by more gut feel. You could do that early in business. You shouldn't have to. You shouldn't, but you can get away with it earlier in business. Once you get to a certain size, you have a certain amount of employees, and you're trying to accomplish a certain amount of things, it's a lot harder to wing it, and you need to rely on this infrastructure. So if you don't have this infrastructure in place, go back and listen to this video, understand the difference between cash flow and profits, what cash is, when to use cash, the inflows and outflows. Build this financial infrastructure properly so that you can grow and scale your business from there. If you like this video, please share it with your friends. If you found this helpful in any way, share it. You can find us on LinkedIn. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Link up with us on LinkedIn or any of our other social media channels. And most importantly, God bless you and have a great week.